Welcome back to the Quietmind Astrology podcast. And today I am joined by a relationship expert to talk about relationships and finding your soulmate with Michelle Chung. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, today in this episode, we're not going to talk much about the astrology, but just about Michelle sharing her expertise and her experience and her perspective of working with clients and sharing this work of how to find your soulmate, which I know so much in astrology. It's one of the main things that people are interested in is compatibility and is this the right person? And for me, and I was on Michelle's podcast as well, where we talked about this of the astrology is very important and helpful, but so much of it comes down to the intuition and the actual relationship and not getting too much in your head about, oh, he's this sign or she's that sign or this and that. And so I just want to hear your perspective of what actually works. Like when people are looking for compatibility in relationships, like what actually does work on the more intuitive and just feeling and connection based level for people to find the person that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's a big question. It's funny talking about relationships and astrology because I'm one of those people who immediately looked up, my partner's Cancer and I'm Aquarian. So I'm like, oh, how does that work out? And like we just spoke about on our podcast, yeah, that I don't have my birth time, so I can't tell the other parts of my astrology reading. Um, but just I guess to bring it back to finding your partner in relationships, I think a lot of people go the convenient route where they're like, oh, I'll just go on these dating apps, or I'll just go to bars with my girlfriends and we'll have a night of it, but we won't be looking, we'll just be out there. And oh, I'm not finding someone, but all I need to do is just get myself out there, but where do I go? So these are the very common questions a lot of single ladies like ask me and that I've noticed. And when I was single for 5 years, it was the same kind of stuff that I was doing. So I totally hear you. I've been there, I've done that. So what I find really works, I talk about like a three-step process in my new webinar that I'm actually running, and how important it is to follow this process. Like with anything, finding the right man, finding the right relationship, it's actually a process. And it's a process that you can follow if someone has hacked it, someone has done something well. Wouldn't you want to know what they did? Like, isn't that one of the first things you do when your girlfriend finally meets somebody? Like, where did you meet him? How did you do it? Like, you just want to know what they did, right? So I break it down very simply. May not be an easy process, but it's simple, and it's a repeatable process that you can actually follow. So basically, what I talk about in my webinar are three steps that you can start with, and basically looking and matching for somebody with the same core values. So a lot of companies do it to match employees. You do it with the job that you're looking for. So why do you not do that with your partner? Why do you only look for he's got to be good looking, he's got to have a great job, he's got to be stable? Like, why do we only look for those superficial external things when really what's more important are the core values and the vision that you have together that will actually sustain a permanent long-term relationship? So that's one of the first things I talk about.
And I know you talk to a lot of like successful entrepreneurial women or people who are doing well in other areas of life, but still struggling here. And what are some of those common things that you see that are they're making these mistakes or these things that they're not looking at that maybe it's the core values is one of the big ones. Are there other ones that people are missing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's another great question. So I've noticed a pattern, and I guess a lot of people have also said to me, hey, we have these really amazing, high achieving women in our business programs, but they're all single, or they find it really hard to find a partner. And I guess I myself was in that category. Like I'm very ambitious, I'm driven, I'm very focused on my business and working with people and helping people. Yet for 5 years, I was really struggling to find somebody. And prior to that, I'd been married, I'd had great relationships, and all of a sudden I was in this void of finding the right guy. So what I've noticed is that women who are high achievers, ambitious, I guess we classify them in society as A-type women or alpha women. So I speak a lot about this in my podcast and my content. this tends to be women with, I guess, a more masculine energy. So this concept of achievement and success in our society tends to come from a more masculine energy, where, you know, we have been in a very patriarchal society since centuries, right? So we've always learnt that in order to get something that we want, we have to really push and we have to force and we have to really go for it and hustle. And that also becomes the way we look at relationships. All of a sudden it's like, yeah, if you want to meet a guy, you got to get out there, you got to hustle, you got to, you know, meet as many men as possible and then pick them off your list, your checklist. If they don't, you know, filter them out, don't spend your time on, you know, the wrong ones. But I think that checklist has been really not being clearly defined, and it's actually the wrong checklist. So in my webinar, then I teach you what is the kind of checklist that you actually need to go through. So it's definitely that common theme of a very masculine energy. What works in your business and career doesn't actually translate to relationships. And part of my program, I interview high value, successful men. And there was a common theme that they were saying that they were looking for in their ideal woman. And that has nothing to do with their success, how independent they are, how much they make, all these kind of things where, you know, we really value in society, like how much is that person's net worth, and, you know, how well traveled are they, or where do they live? None of these things really matter in your soulmate relationship. So that's the main thing, this overbalance of masculine energy.
And this is a process you have been through as well. So, I mean, 5 years of being single. In that time, were you trying to find the person? Were you dating? Were you doing these same things?
Oh, heck yeah. So I guess to back it up, in my own story, my journey was that I don't even remember what year it was, but um I in my early 30s, I was married to a partner I'd been with for like about 5 years. We were married for about 3 years. We actually got married in Vegas because I didn't want that big white wedding. I just went, my parents had given me pressure to get married and have kids. So I'm like, okay, let's just do this when we're traveling. And that that was a great relationship, but there was a point, and I'd actually had a back injury at that point. Like, we were married and life was going great, but then all of a sudden I was getting these injuries, and my back injuries didn't heal, and all of a sudden I couldn't walk. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like crippled and I'm early 30s. I couldn't, you know, I just couldn't move. It was literally a sign to say, stop what you're doing. Something is not aligned. So now I recognized, through the help of studying kinesiology for myself, was that if my body was out of alignment, my body was physically not healthy, that I was not living my purpose in life. So from that, it was a huge wake up call. And I realized I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. I realized um, he was a great guy. My mom was like crying, like, why? Like, you're single at 30s. What? You're supposed to have a family. And I just realized our values weren't aligned, and we weren't going the same direction in our relationship. Even though it was a great relationship for me, because I wanted to achieve more, I wanted to fulfill my potential, I wanted to travel, I wanted to do all these great things, but we weren't aligned. He had a completely different set of core values, which of course no one ever taught us when we're dating, right? So that was, I guess, a brave decision, even though it was like the only decision I could make. But a lot of my friends and family was like, "You're so brave to be out there on your own again," and I was like, I just got to do it. This is a no brainer. I just got to do it." So then I
Wow.
was single, and I know how to date. Like, I'd literally never really dated. Like, in high school, I was super shy, really awkward. I had crushes on, you know, hot guys, but I didn't think they liked me, or I just had no idea how to, you know, be in a relationship. So, you know, and then in my 20s, I was in relationships, and then I was married. So then it's like, okay, I'm single. What do I do? What do people do to, you know, find somebody? And normally, what, you know, we did back in the day, I guess, organic dating was, you'd go to work, you'd meet somebody in the workplace, you'd be introduced through your friends and family. If culturally your family arranges someone to meet from a good family, you know, those kind of things. And all I thought was like, oh, we have this online dating apps now. This is the age of the online dating apps. So I was on Tinder, I was on Bumble, I was on Hint, every single thing you could think of, I was on there. I even paid a lot of money for this high-end dating app, thinking, oh, if they've got money and they're, successful, then they must be better quality and higher value. And what I realized was, nope, they're still the same kind of people, just more money, but maybe even attracted more eccentric or weirdo types. I don't know. So definitely have experienced that through the 5 years. I guess by year three of being single, I was like, what is going on? Like, this is like the longest time I've been single. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I was trying everything. I was in 2017, I traveled as a digital nomad as well, and I lived in Mexico, and I lived in Latin America, and lived in Europe, and I dated like local guys everywhere, and I was like, where is this guy? Like searching for him, probably had hundreds of dates over the years, and still not finding anyone. And I guess what was the real breakthrough by year five, and we were what was happening? Oh, we were in COVID actually. We were in COVID times at that point, 2020, and I was staying with an ex-boyfriend. No, I was staying with a boyfriend at the time. We weren't even super close, but he was like, "Come on down, and we'll like, if you want to stay at my place for this lockdown." And I was literally homeless at that point because I just finished a lease with my apartment in Barcelona. I was supposed to go back to Sydney, see my family, and then I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't be flying right now. So I thought, okay, I'll just stay in Barcelona. And a friend from school, because I was studying fine art, and she was very kind and generous. She said, "Come stay with me." So we were staying in her tiny little apartment in the middle of the city. And when this boyfriend said, "I'll come stay with me," I was like, "Okay, it's a better option." He's got like a 3-bedroom apartment. He's got 2 cats. I just love cats, and he loves to cook, and it just sounded like a good option. I thought, oh, it's only a couple of weeks. So it was like a couple of months, the lockdown. It was 2 months actually. In Spain, it was quite a strict lockdown. We could not leave you could not leave your home, even just to walk around. And it was at that point that I saw a life coach, and she was actually a property investor as well. And I saw her through a webinar, and my intuition actually said to go watch that webinar. And I was like, I don't like webinars. I don't know what I'm doing this, but my intuition was quite strong and told me to go watch this webinar. Turns out she's also a life coach as well as a property coach. And so I hired her, and I was like, I need to change my life. I really need to do something different. I need a breakthrough. So it was working with her that I started working through all these, past relationships, really digging deep to, what was actually blocking me and what was I was subconsciously projecting that was, you know, ruining my chances of meeting the right guys. And I was also listening to business mentors. So using a lot of business concepts, I translate that into relationships. And well, they're all universal principles, aren't they? So one concept about resistance, I really took on board. That was a business mentor who said, if you find yourself going around in circles and you're not getting what you want, then there is some resistance. You're resisting something. So a lot of my content is also about that, discovering what you're resisting. And I've had clients have amazing results just by doing this one exercise, meeting their soulmate after a couple of months. And just quite incredible stuff once you release this energetic blockage. Um, yeah, so basically, working with this life coach, formulating my own kind of exercises. What were the things that I broke through? I put this into a program as well that my students follow, and they're able to follow this process and get successes and meet their partners as well.
Amazing. So that biofeedback, the back pain, and then it's like it started probably small and then to the point where you like couldn't walk.
Yeah,
That's amazing. And your body's basically, when you felt into that, like the message was clear, like it was time to end that relationship, right?
yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then as you're going along, like how do you honor that in a way of like, maybe you go on all these dates, you've been on all these dates, all these different people. At some point, I imagine you thought maybe, well, this is just enough or good enough, or like maybe you'll settle. There's probably your body, your intuition is probably like, no. uh, I imagine some people listening maybe are in that phase right now of that did, well, maybe in this phase of their body saying it's time for a change, or maybe this phase of they're dating and they're like, maybe they should just settle at some point, and or this phase of, you know, something opening and maybe that's the direction to go. Maybe it's this person that there's this resonance and feels like the right direction. So those are kind of three interesting phases to speak to in this process of the first one of just like somebody's in a relationship now and like how do you know? It's like, well, you don't need to just like work it out or get more therapy or do some inner work, or it actually is time to end the relationship. I imagine that was a very difficult choice for you after that long marriage and everything and your pressure from your mom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess following and listening to intuition, it becomes stronger once you follow it, right? So for me, it sometimes it comes as words, like I can see the words. For example, like an a cool intuition story. I just came back from Sydney over the holiday, and the airline had not taken my bags onto the next flight, and I kind of knew that they weren't going to arrive in Barcelona when I did. But still, I kind of waited at the carousel hoping that it was going to be there. And then all of a sudden, intuition said to me, "Leave now," and it was very distinct. I often say your intuition comes from your neck to the torso in this area. It doesn't come from your head because that's kind of a logical, your mind telling you, where intuition is comes from a different part of your body. And it said, leave now. And I was like, oh yeah, there's no point waiting. I'm sure it's not going to be here. So it made me go to the counter, and waiting there for me was a letter from the airline saying, we're so sorry the bag didn't make the flight. We'll deliver it for you. We'll deliver it straight to your home tomorrow. So my intuition had actually told me, don't wait around. This is what's actually happening. And I was just like amazed. Like every time I listen to my intuition, it always guides me in this amazing way. Like another story is that I had a personal, I guess, disappointment late last year, and I was quite upset. I was crying, and I heard these buskers playing beautiful music. They were singing like I thought it was actually a concert, and they were singing outside my house. And intuitively, I really felt like I had to give them money. I just wanted to drop some money into their hat. And when I actually got outside, I realized it actually stopped playing, and I was like, oh no, how do I find them? Like my intuition is really telling me I've got to give them something. And I actually did find them. They weren't too far from where they were singing. And I gave them like $50. It was like all I had on me. And I was like, I need to give this to you. And they were so shocked because they're like, that is a lot of money in Spain, right? And from that good act, I guess the karma of it was that, I made sales on my program. Like on Christmas Day, I woke up, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And I found really cheap flights to Sydney. And all these follow on things happen because of my intuition. And my intuition even said, go check the flights right now, go check your email right now. And that's all like intuition guiding you. They're your angels, they're your guides.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always there. And then I think you get these little moments of feedback or validation. And then for you, like physically with your body in that relationship, I imagine your back started to feel better once you started to move in
Yeah,
that direction, right?
correct. It still needed some help from people. So if you're stuck in a situation, always ask who, not how, because I was looking up information online. I was lying on the floor at night in pain and looking up information online, trying to heal myself. And now I've learned from business mentors the mantra needs to be who, not how. Who can help you? And they're the people, they're your angels on earth who will help you in your journey. So at that point where I couldn't walk, I did eventually find a chiropractor who could help adjust me. And after seeing him, it kind of completely changed my mind. And we're still friends now. We always go out for dinner when I'm back in Sydney. And I really always just say to him, you helped change my life, because
Mm.
he really helped me. But that was also very much I guess intuition after trying and exhausting all other avenues, you know.
Right. And then you were in this dating phase, and then you found this webinar and this coach, and you knew you needed this breakthrough. And again,
Yeah.
that's a situation where you found somebody, the who, to help you because yeah, especially modern times now, it's like you can Google everything and end up in all these rabbit holes and echo
Oh yeah.
chambers. No, you need to do it this way. Oh, you need to do it that way. But it's like actually working with people, and I do mentorships too. I offer them, I receive them. And I find that too. It's like there's just so much from actually being able to talk to somebody who you resonate with, who knows that, who's been there, has the experience. And I imagine that's what you do now with your work and as the things that you offer. But having that as well with your teacher and your coach that helped you in your phase, what is like, what was that like when you started working with her? When you said like you wanted the breakthrough, what was that process of like getting to that breakthrough for you?
I guess a really good coach, a really good life coach, would guide you to arrive at the questions that's already inside you.
Mm,
So I think I've not liked certain coaches coaching me when they try to give you their answers.
mm,
That's coming from them. So the life coaching process is always about, we trust that the client has the genius inside them. We all do. We all have the answers inside ourselves. We all know how to locate our soulmate. We all know how to attract the right people into our lives. It's just opening that up, and you just you are a spirit in a human body, and just uncovering and coming back to that spirit self is, I guess, what how powerful the life coaching process is. Because a lot of time we attract from this the suit of ego, the human suit of ego, which is actually not us, which is, and who we are is the spirit self.
mm,
So if you imagine you're attracting your partner from your ego self, what kind of relationship can you expect? It's that, isn't it? So in my training, I also talk about the different stages of relationships, and I borrow this concept from Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Being dependent relationships are the first ones you go into, because when you're a child, when you're a baby, you have to depend on your family for survival. So it's a very survival based relationship, transactional relationship, where I give you something and you give me something back. And that's kind of like the dependent phase type of relationships. You need somebody to feel fulfilled. You kind of rely on that person for emotional security or safety, even physical security and safety. And what my process does is move you out of that dependent style of relationships, where you could be in narcissistic style relationships, where you could be the abuser or you could be the abused. I'm using, these are very strong words, but you're basically not in your spirit self. You're using your ego to attract that other person. So what you want to do is move towards independence. So that independence I call the magnetic me stage, where you're in your most magnetic self. You've discovered who you are as a spirit. You've discovered who you truly are, and you've let go of a lot of the ego, the trauma, all those negative experiences that are blocking you energetically and unconsciously. These things are actually blocking you from being seen by your soulmate, or attracting that soulmate into your life, or following your intuition so you can make those decisions to be in the vicinity of your soulmate. And once you're in that stage of magnetic, you go towards interdependent relationships. So that means two magnetic people are coming together independently, being together because they want to be together, not because they have to be together for some emotional transactional trade-off. So Stephen Covey says those interdependent relationships are where you independently get what you want and you fulfill each other on a complementary level. So I always teach that going towards those interdependent relationships. You know what your core values are, you align on your core values, your vision, you have a similar kind of lifestyle that you want to lead, everything is very complementary, and you come from a balanced masculine and feminine energy within yourself so that you can attract someone else who is also having that balanced masculine feminine energy within themselves as well.
Oh, it's so good. And that all cannot be translated into some pictures on an app.
Absolutely, absolutely. That, I mean, that's a shortcut, isn't it?
Yeah.
But like I always say, you're the only one who knows who's good for you. So this is something you cannot outsource to someone else. Even I've had clients come to me after paying, thousands and thousands on dating agencies, and they felt like, these dating agencies, it's that, you're just a KPI, you're just a number or a sales target to them, where you got to have enough matches. Your profile, oh, he sort of matches this guy's profile. I had one client say, I liked cooking, and then all of a sudden she keeps matching me with all these guys that like cooking, but none of the other stuff that I'm actually like prioritizing, or that's actually really important. So for the matchmaker, they're kind of like, oh yeah, they look good on paper, but it's really a very superficial way of matching, isn't it? And yes, of course, sometimes you can match and you can have, great relationships like this. But what I also have discovered, the distinction between a relationship and meeting a soulmate, it's actually quite different. So if you're meeting a soulmate, it's somebody you've made a pact with in a past life. You've made a promise that you're going to reunite in this lifetime. You can have multiple soulmates, so it doesn't mean it's like one and only, and that expectation and attachment that is going to be the biggest, greatest love of your life. I believe that your soulmate is there to help you achieve something in your life, to have these kind of experiences so that you can learn something from it, have an amazing experience, whether it to be feeling love or joy or feeling these higher emotions, and then maybe they're in your life temporarily and then you move apart. So um, I think that concept of I just want to meet a guy and I want to meet my soulmate. I work with those who want to meet their soulmate, because you can just find anyone on an app or go out and find a date anywhere, right? It's not
Right.
the hard part. It's actually finding the right person for you, which is the challenge, right?
Well, and somewhere in between there, people meet the twin flames, right? These really
Mm,
intense, maybe shorter relationships. They're like, is this the soulmate? Is this just a fling? What is this? Right. So like,
mm.
what do you think about that? Like well, how do you navigate those?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just go with it. Like feel what you need to feel, enjoy it. Like our life is about enjoying our experiences. It's not about feeling guilty and I should be doing this. Just go with it. Like that twin flame relationship could just be what you need to have your breakthrough, to find the one that you end up with, your soulmate. So these I guess are very much interchangeable terminology. Your relationships need to be teaching you something.
Mm,
Otherwise, you keep repeating them and you get stuck in that dependent relationship.
right.
So um, all our relationships are useful for us. They, provide value for us, and we just need to learn from them.
Right. And at a certain point, like when you knew it was time to end that one, like, is it part of it is like you feel like there's no more growth, there's nothing else to learn, there's like nowhere to go forward? Is that part of the clarity of like that it's either that one's done, or if you're dating someone, like, oh, we're not going to grow together, this isn't the direction? Is that one of the key things you look for?
Yeah, that's a really good insight there, Jeremy. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. I feel like I outgrow relationships, if because I do move quite quickly. I'm a DI on the disc profile, so I make decisions very quickly. I move along things very quickly, and I try not to hold on to things and just let go of things very quickly and be quite flexible and adaptable. So I think if I stop growing in a relationship, then I always feel like this is not growing with me, then I feel like this is time to kind of let go of that and let that person have their own new relationships that they need to have as well. So I think letting go of the other person is just as much, or if a very good reason to exit a relationship, because the more you try to hold on onto something that doesn't serve either of you anymore, it doesn't create and allow space for new things to grow. It's just like the analogy of the metaphor of, there's a garden bed, but it's got heaps of weeds and rocks and things. How can you grow any fruit, any trees, any vegetation that actually bears fruit if you don't allow space and create that space?
Right. Yeah. And then once people are in great relationship, like some people listening may already be in what they feel is a soulmate relationship. Like there's the element of the interdependence needed even more so, I think, of no,
Yeah,
still maintaining your sense of self, your path, honoring them, their path, your differences, uh,
yeah.
and complementing each other in these different ways. So, anything you want to share to speak to that of people, maybe they feel like they already are in their soulmate relationship, but maybe there's like the spark is not there as much, or there's like some irritation, maybe they need more space, or the partner needs more space, or navigating this sort of keeping that love and spark alive in the relationship.
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess if you feel like you're in your soulmate relationship and you need to create that spark again, as my partner Raf always says, you need communication. You need to also convey your message to your partner in a way that he or she can accept and really absorb that information. So that's the five love languages, and be able to share with that your partner that you do require growth, that you don't want things to be stagnant, because in kinesiology and Chinese medicine, stagnant is death. If we are meant to be vibrating, we're meant to be moving. An atom or molecule that is not moving is technically dead. So we are all vibration. We are always moving. So if you feel like you're with the right person, but things aren't really happening, perhaps having a conversation about, the growth that you need in order to feel fulfilled and loved in your relationship is important for you. And perhaps he or she may feel the same way as well. Like, you hear lots of married couples saying, oh, our love life is really stagnating. And, you know, um, you also need to give focus, like energy goes where focus is, right? I don't know that phrase. I've used it a lot, but I don't know the exact wording.
Yeah,
But
close
it's
enough.
always, thank you. But it's always like, what you focus on grows and develops, doesn't it? So if you're in your perfect soulmate relationship and, having those conversations about how to keep things flowing, introducing new ideas, or just growing together, I think growth together is the ideal soulmate relationships, because that's what you're meant to be doing as a human, you know. So it and you may be surprised that that's what he or she may also be thinking, but also don't be too attached, and you may have an outcome that you may not be expecting. It may be time to move on and find your next soulmate or your twin flame. It may be time to do some other things that are on your bucket list, or those things that are really important for you, and maybe you'll come back together again, maybe you'll stay together but different capacity. So I think it's really wise to explore that and not get too attached to this idea of my soulmate's got to be with me 24/7, and we've got to love each other to death. Like, I don't think that's practical either.
Right. So good. Yes. And where can people sign up for the webinar you're hosting?
So it's on www.manifestyoursoulmateinperson.com/webinar-registration. Hopefully that's it. I'll give you the link.
I'll have
But
the
yeah,
link
it's
in the
yeah, I'll
show
send, yeah,
notes.
definitely. So yeah, check it out. it'll give you a ton of value. So bring a notepad and pen, and I just love teaching this stuff and helping women with that.
So good. Yeah. And I love you sharing your story and your insights. It's amazing. I think super helpful for listeners, and definitely would recommend checking out the webinar. Did a great interview with Michelle as well. That'll be also on this podcast and the archives. You'll be able to listen. And on Michelle's podcast, we talked more about the astrology side of things. And, so much of it does come back to your intuition, your attention, following the signs of your body, your life. Astrology all supports that, but it can't replace that. It's like you might think, oh, we've got this shared Venus sign, so we're going to be so compatible. But every time you're around them, like your neck hurts and you lose your voice and you
I
feel
love that.
small.
Oh, that's
Like
funny.
when your
Yeah, yeah,
body's giving you direct feedback, it's not just in your head or just overanalyzing it. The astrology is like the weather. It's like, yeah, it can be raining and that can be dreary or it can be romantic.
mm,
And there's different weather happening all the time with the astrology of different people. So it's just one factor, but I think really, I do think it is secondary to what you're talking about, Michelle, of the intuition and the connection, because you can't fake that, you can't force that, and no
mm,
amount of looking at charts or anything else can override that, because you just know, you just feel it. So I really appreciate you
yeah.
sharing your insight on this stuff today.
And I think the main thing to remember is that things should be easy. Things should be effortless. That's the way, if you're in flow and the relationship is in flow, it should be easy. Like, I mean, they're the kind of relationships I've always had. So I never had any doubt that that was, possible for me to have another really effortless, really deep connected relationship, because that's what I've experienced. And I think one of the main misconceptions is that, oh, relationships are hard work and you got to work at it. Like, this concept that we have in our 21st century, are we in the 21st, is that we have to be working hard all the time. And that's not the way our universe is designed for us. Things are meant to be effortless. So if your relationship is hard work and your partner is not meeting you, at the table 50-50, or I say, for women, if he's not coming 51% and you're always having to go 70% to meet him, this is hard work. So no and a lot of my clients had this idea that the relationships are hard, so
Mm.
then they go out looking for these hard relationships, which are dependent relationships. And no, an interdependent relationship will be effortless, it will be easy, it will be committed, it will be all those things you want, and those things that you may not be thinking is possible, but it is.
Yeah. And you won't need to look at your charts 50 times to like,
Yes, exactly.
oh, wait a minute,
Exactly.
wait a minute. What about this? What about this?
Yeah.
uh,
No,
yeah,
exactly.
it shouldn't be that hard. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you for being here today. And what's the name of your podcast? People can look it up on Spotify.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called Love, Life, and Energy. So I talk a lot about, I guess, for alpha women, A-type women looking for love, career-driven, focused women, and I talk about like energy, universal manifestation, um, setting your boundaries in relationships, what to look for, and then also I talk a lot about practical things, because I'm also very practical, logical type of person. What are the best ways to meet your person offline, without using apps, and using your core values to attract your partner, and to be in the right place at the right time.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's it.
So good. Yes, I love getting to talk to you about this because I know this is an important topic that you add a lot to that I don't normally talk about on this podcast. So thank you for bringing this here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.